The most hated American general by Africans in Africa is in Kenya, and Africans are not having it. Guys, come on. Join me as I give you the tea. Welcome to On The Board Podcast Updates. My name is Francis O. The American general called Michael Langley a few months back became extremely famous in Africa after he made some controversial comments about Ibrahim Traoré, who is our beloved icon from Burkina Faso, who is definitely leading a movement of freedom, self-dependence, and resetting the narrative that Africans can actually do it with themselves, to the point that we do not need help from the West. So basically, he's hitting the factory reset button and saying, you know what, let's go back to the drawing board where we came from and show these people that we actually don't need any help from the West, but also help open the minds of the younger and the older generation to tell them or reaffirm to them that the power lies in their hands, but not in the hands of whoever they are seeking help from. Isn't that interesting? Now, that is what the people in the West do not want to hear. And they will do anything possible to discredit that or make it look like it's something that is impossible or something that cannot be achieved without the help from the West. Now, while facing a committee in the US, Michael Langley was asked to give an update about his mission in Africa, because he heads the American military mission in Africa. He spoke specifically about Burkina Faso, where he said that Ibrahim Traoré is actually using the gold reserves to continue keeping himself in power, using the gold reserves to continue consolidating his stay in power. Now, looking at what Ibrahim Traoré has actually done so far in Ivory Coast, it's phenomenal change. This guy is actually creating a new movement whereby he's empowering people to be self-reliant when it comes to agriculture, industrialization, manufacturing. Is basically resetting the narrative. And now, when people heard this statement that Langley made about Traoré, people took to the streets like, no, it has never happened, because they knew very well once these people begin complaining about you, they're definitely going to come for you. A story which played out in Libya, where Muammar Gaddafi was ousted out of power, and now Libya has never been the same again. It's just right now. It's just like man, Libya. It's even hard to describe what's happening in Libya. Libya is in shambles. Libya is chaotic. Libya is. If the Libya of Muammar Gaddafi made the Libya of today, they will actually fight to death. I'm telling you. So to avoid those kinds of things from happening, Africans this time decided to unite from all over Africa, and some that were in Europe, they said, you know what, let's march to reaffirm our stand in supporting Captain Ibrahim Traoré, but also to remind the West that, you know what, your time is out and it's time for us to stand alone. They marched all over the world and expressed their dissatisfaction towards Langley's comments on Ibrahim Traoré and Burkina Faso at large. Now, Langley, with a couple of other African generals, they are hosting the Chief of Defense Conference happening in Kenya, with according to him, with an aim of addressing military security and shared objectives of how they can achieve security. This he mentioned during one of the interviews that was conducted by Citizen TV in Nairobi. But when I watched that video, a lot of things went through my mind, and I felt like there's some questions that needed to be thrown at this guy that were not asked. I want you and I to watch, review it, and give your thoughts in the comment section, if you may, but also, share your ideas or thoughts on this one. So the first video that we are going to be watching is the one of Michael Langley being questioned about the statement that he made about Ibrahim Traoré. Let's watch this.
Was to illuminate that more resources need to go to the whole problem of terrorism across the country. I say my comments were reflective of concerns of military resourcing, management, and what military support, external support they were getting to fight terrorism was insufficient. That's a military answer to a military organization. The U.S. seeks opportunities to continue to collaborate with Burkina Faso. For a number of years, they've been our brothers in arms, and I still consider them so. But the common denominator, the foundational issue, is the growing threat across all of these violent extremist organizations seeking refuge within the borders of Burkina Faso, recruiting within the borders of Burkina Faso, and growing an expansion that provides a threat to the sovereignty of Burkina Faso and across the region of Sahel.
Okay, if I understood this well, I think Langley was restating, maybe clarifying what exactly meant when he was giving his submission while facing this committee in America. He said that his main concern, based on his assessment, were military groups that are reconvening and recruiting and regrouping within the borders of Burkina Faso, hence causing instability in other neighboring countries. This is according to him. I think that's why he said that Ibrahim Traoré is using those rebel groups to keep himself in the power through the gold reserves that he claims Ibrahim Traoré is using to consolidate himself in power. I don't know whether you all understood it the same way, but you can share in the comment section and let me know what you think. But the question is, again, why is why do they care? Why do they care? So then we're going to go into the other interview on Citizen TV.
But this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traoré, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
That was a good question.
To Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make the decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions, though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that is going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNM is getting stronger.
Is he suggesting that Ibrahim Traoré is using the resources, the gold reserves, to finance ISIS, JNM? Are you thinking the same way I'm thinking?
Stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
Al-Qaeda as well?
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traoré took over?
It has.
Good question.
Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has.
Oh, so you see, he's insinuating that Ibrahim Traoré is responsible for financing Al Qaeda, JNM, and ISIS within the same region using the gold reserves. How insane is that? That's crazy.
Since 2022, I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to. They're still on warfighting footing. It's just going to take more resources.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Good question.
Does that then threaten America's interest?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS.
But why is this their business? Why is this their business? Because he's simply, plainly put, he's simply saying that Ibrahim Traoré is inhabiting or is housing all the three terrorist groups within Burkina Faso who are recruiting within Burkina Faso and being financed by the government of Ibrahim Traoré. That's interesting.
ISIS, and of course in East
Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel. And there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkinabe government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and I will just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we're working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just in African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together.
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they're not going to show face, of course.
They were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yes. Like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right. Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of Africa as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers.
Yes.
What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that do that.
He's definitely talking about China.
Okay, but I'm going to bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions.
There's no way you can say you respect someone's sovereignty and you're speaking as though you have a right to disturb or make decisions for them, criticize their decisions as a nation. I don't think that's respecting of sovereignty. That is rather a paternalistic approach of something that I could easily compare to helicopter parenting. Well, if you guys want to catch the rest of this interview, you can go on to Citizen TV and catch the interview. But now, I want to let's look at what people said in the comment section. We just want to relate, just to see. Someone said, "Stop hosting colonial mouthpiece on our national TV. I stand with Traoré. Traitor. Kenya is becoming a modern colonial empathizer." Yeah. What the heck is this guy doing here? Citizen TV, it's time you consult us, your viewers, on your TV invitations. I'm convinced Kenya is serving Western interests. The timeline. I don't know what he meant. He's the one recommending the elimination of Ibrahim Traoré. People are not happy. Then somebody said, Burkinabe is getting about $10 billion in gold sales, and before it was getting $1 billion in royalties only. The same has happened to Niger and Mali. Imagine DRC Congo's economy used to be 2 to 3 times larger than Kenya's during Mobutu's time, and now it's half the size. Imagine DRC Congo is exporting coltan worth about 60 billion, and it does not even get $1 billion royalties. They have literally refused to mine other sources of coltan because they are getting it from free in Congo. That includes China, US, EU, Japan, Israel. Israel smuggles diamonds and other precious stones. Such is the sad story for Congo. I don't know. Sometimes I even question why this keeps happening. It makes me think God is a white man, because I don't want to go there. Well, I don't know how factual this statement is, but it definitely has some truths in it. Needs maybe to do a little bit of more examination. My last parting shots here would be basically to understand exactly why do they feel the need to always interfere with a rising star. Whenever someone that challenges the status quo that was set by our colonial people, colonialists, they seem to fear. It seems these people understand the power that Africans have. They know that we are smart people. They know that we are intelligent people. It's like they drowned us into this ignorance or into this slavery, mental slavery, and neocolonialism. In that, the moment they see one of us bring, pop our heads out of the water, they get extremely paranoid. What is he going to do? Simply because Europe and the rest of the world outside of Africa survives in Africa. So, hence this kind of pressure. But I guess the time is now. Until we meet again. Bye.